panel here today. I have three very interesting colleagues, and the subject for today is location, location, location. And we heard it all, I thought. But except maybe there is somebody who can help us, even after we heard that in regard to location, we heard several suggestions how you find the right location. One was throw the coin. The other one, ask friends, go to where your customers are, use your brand name if it's known in that particular region, or use a central location. And I think there's one person here on the stage that probably can help you in find the ideal location for your company, and that's Ed Fantasia to my right. Ed is a New Yorker. He works now for SelectUSA, and I will explain briefly what SelectUSA does. He got his Master of Science from Syracuse University, and he practiced international business and finance law with Haynes and Boone in Dallas. He was appointed by the governor of Texas to set up an investment and trade office here in Frankfurt some time ago. And in 1997, Mr. Fantasia joined the U.S. Department Commerce Foreign Service. And you probably remember the first initiative by the United States, which was called Invest in America, which was the forerunner of the program the U.S. started now, Select America. And Select America is helping companies to do business in the United States. And you are very busy, I assume, especially next year, because during the Hannover Trade Fair, the U.S. is the partner country. And I assume that means lots of work for you. And I was very surprised about the discussion we earlier had, and I was wondering, how do you help somebody? I mean, you are representing all the states in the United States, and if a company comes to you and says, I want to do business in the United States, how do you recommend a certain state or a certain place? I mean, if you, in a discussion, if you talk to US people, you have immediately 60 counties sending you brochures, you should go to their county. How do you go about that? I assume it's difficult.
Thank you, Anne. The short answer is I don't. Seriously, it would be a political suicide for me to recommend a particular location in the United States. There's no one ideal location. The United States is a continent, and you have an almost infinite number of opportunities and possibilities in the U.S. What I can do is to help a company clearly define its own priorities and strategies, and then to provide a base of collecting reliable, impartial, objective information and contacts that can help the company make a good decision. SelectUSA or its predecessor, Invest in America, is a relatively young program. Most of the testimonials, the companies that we've heard from today, actually entered the U.S. market before we existed. And many of them have succeeded and thrived. There's also a lot of European, German companies who have failed miserably in the United States. That's not to be in any way overlooked or to just glossed over. And we hope that we can provide a more structured, systematic approach to the U.S. market. We can help in a variety of ways that's not dependent upon chance. We dispose over, as you might surmise, we dispose over enormous amounts of information. There's, I think, no other organization in the world that collects and processes as much data, many of which is relevant to your business decisions, as the U.S. government. It's not all easily obtainable, but SelectUSA offers a point of entry into the resources that are available. I'll just mention a couple of them. In this discussion, location was discussed already. It is related to incentives and to financial assistance and other forms of assistance. But one resource that we do dispose over, which can help bring a company along the learning curve to make it more competitive on the U.S. market, we've partnered with Harvard University. We have a cluster mapping of the United States. The types of synergies, the access to skilled labor, to research centers, to concentrations of potential business partners and so forth, are collected, and they're available. The website that we maintain, selectusa.gov, it's easy to remember, can lead you through a number of these sources of information. We can help escort you through this process, but they're fairly easy to navigate on their own. Another resource that we have, it's on a subscription basis that I have, but I'm glad to share the information with that, is a comparison of various locations throughout the United States along the criteria that you've identified. One of the topics of today's program is focused on research and development. And this was mentioned also earlier. We have the National Network of Manufacturing Innovation. 9 institutions have been or are in the process of being created in certain key industrial sectors to reinvigorate our classical historical strength in the manufacturing sector. And these are bundles of resources and competencies that companies are available to. It was mentioned before, once you're in the United States, you're treated like an American company, and you're entitled to all the privileges, with a very few exceptions. We need to be attentive to export control of technology and so forth. Sometimes foreign companies need to navigate that a little more closely than domestic. But there are many, many resources that are available today that were not available in previous years. And I thank all of those companies who have voted with their feet for the United States and have thrived in the United States. And I think that those that follow on would have a bit of an easier task by taking advantage of what the U.S. government and its local partners, all of the 50 states, the 5 territories, and the 20,000 economic development organizations that you'll find in the U.S. are all our partners, and we can help you to work with them all. So, just as an overview.
Okay, thank you very much. So you kind of provided Check 24 for companies in regard to finding the right location. One question I would like to add, is there a strategy in the US for certain industries in certain states, like the IT in California, manufacturing on the Upper East Coast?
When you mention a strategy, I think that these are truly exciting times in the United States. It's perhaps not publicly stated in this form, but I think that the best thing that has ever happened to my country was the financial crisis in 2008. That was a wake-up call to the United States that we negligently allowed a very critical part of our economic makeup to be eroded over time. And because of that, what has evolved is something very close to an industrial policy. That was very much a swear word, a curse word in the past in the United States, being very much laissez-faire oriented, and we still are. But there's really 3 components to this change of mentality. which you'll find, I think, at all levels of the government and through the population, is that we have a new prioritization to restore the strength and the leadership that the United States has in the productive sector, in manufacturing. We want to stabilize and to increase our leading position in the research and development field, both basic research and applied research. And last but not least, the United States has for too long been an inward-looking economy, and very much less so oriented towards export markets than many of our competitors. On all three counts, manufacturing, research and development, and exports, foreign direct investment plays a critical contribution to reaching our goals. Foreign companies make up over 1/5 of all U.S. exports. And I know that at the podium here we have, I think, the number one exporter from the United States is a German company. It's BMW. Exports more from the United States than any other single entity. In the field of research and development, of the $150 billion annually that goes into research and development in the United States, over 1/3 of that is contributed to the U.S. economy by foreign companies, many of them European and German companies. Again, in the manufacturing sector, foreign direct investment makes up almost 1/3 of all foreign direct investment in the United States is into the manufacturing sector. So the United States is looking and welcoming the entry into our market by companies that can help reach our own goals.
Thank you very much. Concentrating on the manufacturing side and developing a policy to concentrate more on that. Was that the reason probably why IFM Electronics really got settled and further developed in the United States? To my left we have Andreas Fobbe. He has been working for IFM Electronic GmbH since April 1998. Prior to that, he was in the international automotive team in the Ford Group and expert manager for North and South America. Since December 2014, he is also managing director of the new Chilean, in Chile, IFM subsidiary, so he is traveling quite a bit too. He is responsible for new markets, new market strategy, IT sales. Which states are you involved in the United States? Where are you manufacturing? And are you manufacturing out of the US to the entire world market or basically for the US markets? What have your decisions been?
So it's easy to say I'm responsible for everything. In the whole country of the USA, I'm not concentrated on a different kind of state. So just a little bit history, why we are located in Exton, that's in Pennsylvania state, 40 minutes away from Philadelphia Airport. So we were founded 20 years ago. We started with a distributor and then found out it's better to do our own business because we want to be close to the customer and feel the needs. And so 20 years ago we started with 5 people. And the decision why we are, until half a year ago we were in Exton and now we're in Malvern, it's only 10 kilometers away. And so the decision was because we want to be close to the customer. That was a good hub also for us with a lot of universities to recruit the people. Also from the logistics side, a lot of highways are crossing there, and because you have to know that we are delivering with our warehouse, which is also in Malvern, we are delivering also the Canadian market, and our goal is to deliver within 24 hours a complete USA and Canada. And we have also a production site there with 50 people. We are producing there especially for the US market, capacitive, inductives, photo eyes, and also cables with MPT thread and all this, which belongs to the demands of the US market. But we are also producing temperature sensors. This kind of manufacturing terms are coming from Germany, where we are located in the south of Germany. So we got all the machines. We are producing them for the world market. And it was mentioned also before, we are a little bit more independent in the US. We are far away from Germany. So let's say the influence is a little bit less. Anyhow, we have to keep our colleagues a little bit under control in the USA. And so sometimes I have to go there to see what they are really doing. But they are very innovative, I have to say. And so the decision to stay in Pennsylvania was also because having good universities there and getting also, nothing against the other states which were mentioned during the panels, we got a good tax fees and all this kind of stuff, good support, and we want to stay there because we found out it's the best way there, and we are a little bit more independent. It doesn't depend if we are visiting BMW in the USA. That's no problem for us because we are located with home offices or branch offices all over the USA. The headquarters is still in Melbourne. There we have our telesales, our administration, legal side, HR department, and all this kind of stuff. But to be close to the customer, this is our hub to decide where to go with our own people. And so we have some nice software tools, and so during the years we found out with our software tools where are our main customers, where is the growing business. And thank God we are not concentrated only on automotive or on food. We are also related to the steel companies. We are related to renewable energies, to pharmaceutical and chemical industries. So just to summarize, we are located in each industry where they need to monitor a process. And the next step will be Industrial Revolution 4.0. Everybody's talking about, nobody knows clearly what does it mean. And everybody has different ideas. Interesting. What we found out is that the pressure is coming from the US customers because they received machines from Europe, especially Germany. And sometimes they find, thank God, so our sensors on this, and we have a special unit on this, and they heard something about this and that. And they said, what is Industrial Revolution 4.0? What can I do with your sensors? What can I do with the software, whatever? And this is interesting that we feel the pressure from the market, independent where in the USA. So for us, it will be the second step in not only selling hardware, but also selling software. And for this, US is very, very nice to stay there. We will also be with an office in Silicon Valley to keep, let's say, the finger on the pulse and to work with the people there because nobody knows exactly where the direction is. Everybody's talking about software, but how to use, where to use, and what is the result coming out of the software, we need to be everywhere. In Silicon Valley, but we are also around Boston. Maybe that some people of you know that around Boston there's a lot of with O3D camera systems. I think BMW know this also for their cars, could be. And so this is interesting also for us because it is software needed and hardware needed, and this will be also a kind of future for us. So in this way we trust on USA, and so we never said it was a problem to be in the USA, and we want to grow in the USA. We are now around about 280 people there, and we want to hire the next 5 years additional 70 people minimum to keep our business there and because it's also a growing market for us.
Okay, thank you very much. Last but certainly not least, the biggest plant of BMW is in the United States. You are the biggest exporter out of the United States, and it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Thomas Becker. Since 2007, Vice President Governmental Affairs of the BMW Group in Munich. He also supervises the worldwide representation of BMW and all the political interests and the company's approach to integrate political topics into marketing and into the communication of BMW. And he steers what's becoming more and more important nowadays, the sustainability communication. He started his career with BDI, the Federation of German Industries, and he worked then for the VDA, which is, the Association of the Automotive Sector, where he was Deputy Managing Director. Very interesting, the software coming from the United States and part of the hardware from Germany. Is that also the direction you see the industry going?
I mean, we are moving into a more and more globally integrated development and supply and production network. So if I may outline briefly our footprint in the US, this is, it all started with the setup 40 years ago of our sales organization in New Jersey. We then, in 1992, decided to produce in the US, clearly following the principle of production follows the market, also with a view to balancing currency fluctuations, with a view to being closer to where the customers, namely for our 4x4 vehicles are. The US was the right choice for that. And over time, Plant-Spartanburg, as you said, has become the biggest single facility that BMW is operating. And wherever in the world you see an X5 or X3 or X4 vehicle, they all come from this plant in Spartanburg, South Carolina. The ones in Europe still bearing a 10% import tariff sticker, which fairly obviously explains our preferences in terms of TTIP. That adds up to 500 million euros a year, which we pay in customs for importing BMWs made in the USA into the European Union. So in addition to that, BMW operates what is named DesignWorks. That is an independently managed entity that also serves third-party customers. It's located in the Bay Area in California, and for example, they produce interior design for Embraer airplanes in Brazil, being done by a company located in California and owned by BMW. In addition, we have a technology office, which is in Mountain View, also California, which has obviously the purpose to reach out into the high-tech and software community in California. And our most recent additional presence in the US is a joint venture which we operate with SGL Carbon, here from this region, where at the moment we are about to become the biggest global producer of carbon fiber, which is the raw material not only for the BMW i series of electric vehicles, but which also goes, for example, into the new 7 Series, which we call carbon core. In addition to lightweight steel, aluminum, and other materials, we have central elements of the body skeleton being made from carbon fiber, which again is produced in the state of Washington, in a very remote place named Moses Lake, as Thomas Fromm from the Süddeutsche Zeitung characterized it when he reported about the opening, in a place that looks like an advertisement for blue jeans. Big sky, wide horizon, few houses. This is where we make these carbon fibers, precisely for the reason that this is the place where we get the cheapest renewable energy in the world. They have so much of it, you can't consume it with the few million inhabitants Washington has, and therefore it was an ideal choice for us. So this is how we are set up in the US, and I must really say, no matter where we are in all of these decisions, be it the deeply Republican southern state of South Carolina, or be it the very democratic, very liberal Seattle-dominated Washington state, we really got immaculate support in our decisions, and very good conditions for going there, and high commitment by everybody within the state government and the relevant agencies.
Okay. When I was reading the Steve Jobs biography, there is a mention in it where he had a meeting with Obama. And Obama asked him, what do I have to do to make you produce in the United States or manufacture in the United States instead of China? And Steve Jobs said, get me 30,000 engineers. And is that an issue? Is finding adequate enough engineers an issue for you to develop your business in the United States?
So what I know, it's not an issue with the existing challenges, what we have at the moment, finding engineers for our sensor technologies to develop a little bit here and there. So in this case, we have no issues, but the big challenge will come now with the software-related things. So maybe a pure software, which is a separate product, which has to be sold, but also not only to be sold, also the customer has to be supported in this way. So it means we need another kind of engineer in the future, in the near future, and this kind of engineers, they're not growing on trees. And so we have to find the right universities, we have to find the right people, but I think it is not a problem in this way, because we have good universities, and at all we know, when we take the engineers from there, we have to educate them, because it's another kind of challenge. No university is doing this at the moment, what we need and what our idea is. So let's say having the students with the basics and being trained by us, that will help us. So from this kind of view, we have no issues. But we have strong relationships since many, many years with the universities, so they know our demand, and at all we know we cannot have a visit in a minute in this way. And so from our side of view, from our experience, it's not a problem. It's more challenging now in Germany, I have to say.
Okay. You agree?
Well, I mean, one thing that matters massively for our manufacturing operations is having highly skilled, flexible colleagues in our workforce. This is not only about people who do engineering studies, but who do apprenticeships and who are continuing to be further qualified as we move from one generation of vehicles to the next. And here what really strongly mattered was the agreement with the state of South Carolina from the outset for a very close collaboration with various community colleges in the region, the support by the state for setting up an automotive institute at Clemson University, where we now have quite a few people who have been graduating from there who are pursuing careers within BMW globally, which I think is also an important factor which enables us to really develop our production in the US further continuously. Another point is that we see a strong support also when it comes to regulatory bodies for exploring new technical possibilities. For example, in Spartanburg, we have the first pilot for collaboration between robots and people. If you go to one of our facilities in Germany, the robots are in cages to protect them, or to protect the workers from being hit by a robot. The first time that we have a new generation of machines which, with the help of their sensors, really sense what the person right beside the robot does, and where they really work seamlessly together. This piloting takes place in Spartanburg. And this is, I think, indicative of the ability also to translate new technical options into mass serious production in the US.
Is the US working on that new engineering quality issue that is coming up in order to get the machine and the software better working together?
Yes, we're working on this. I think in this sphere, I think there's excellent synergies between the strengths of our two industrial structures. The U.S. has long been a leader in the software sector. We may not have been turning out as many software engineers as we would have liked, but we also import a lot of them from many other source countries in the world. And that combined with German mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, I think has enormous potential for developing a truly leading, future-oriented methods of production. Many of the manufacturing innovation institutes that I mentioned are dedicated precisely to those areas. But I think that sometimes it's easy to be blindsided by this fixation on university education. I think really that where the United States needs to catch up with, and it was discussed very early today, why are we always bashing Germany? In fact, the United States is looking to Germany for its dual system of education, Ausbildung, and in many areas across the United States, including Charlotte region in North Carolina, in South Carolina, but in many other areas, we actually have pilot programs. It's not the blanket coverage dual system that you'll find in Germany, but it's very pointed, and it's being driven in large part by the private sector. And so providing young people with the basic skills to assure a certain level of quality for entering these manufacturing sectors is critical. And then again, combined with the sometimes maligned system of in the United States of learning on the job, I think also has tremendous potential. Learning on the job has its advantages too. It's difficult to predict really the future and where this industrial innovation trends will lead us in 5 years. I'm not sure that you can have a dual system program which can predict in 5 years which jobs will be needed. So if you combine the basic skill sets that the German model is able to contribute with this very fast-moving, innovative approach to new developments in the United States, I think it has enormous potential.
Thank you very much. Low energy costs, fantastic software engineers, which are really the key to Industry 4.0. The new manufacturing policy of the United States, everything speaks for an investment in the United States, but still we are the few here today. And I was wondering, I was saying, if we had a seminar on invest in Iran today, if we probably, the room would be jammed. But doesn't it also speak for the absolutely normal relations that we have, business relations between the United States and Germany? And we were just talking, when you get into a plane and you land in the United States, it's home. You know your way, you speak the language, you know everything, and the same as with doing business there. And that all speaks for the good relations. It speaks for TTIP, by the way, too. And I can only really recommend an article that was in the Frankfurter Allgemeine Sonntagszeitung about 2 weeks ago on how the TTIP opposition got started. I don't know if any of you saw that article. It is a fascinating article on the NGOs looking for new subjects and evaluating what subjects would be good enough for them to make it really big. And then they started a communication strategy. And if you read that article, this is really good strategic work what they did. And they truly say they don't care about the subject. They just needed a subject to prove their case. And so that all speaks for fighting for TTIP and getting people convinced. With that, I would like to open the discussion to the floor. Are there any questions to our panelists today? There are no questions, and it's kind of late already in the afternoon. One final question to our panelists. One last wish for your business in the United States. I start with you. You probably have the biggest wish nowadays.
Well, I mentioned TTIP already. I mean, if you look at the reality, Henry Ford opened the Cologne plant in the 20s. The GM guys bought Opel in the 30s. All German manufacturers produce in the US, and vice versa. So there is absolutely no reasons for having transatlantic tariffs in the automotive sector anymore. Yeah. It's very simple. Yeah. And that there is opportunity in collaborating on all kinds of technical requirements, I think, is vividly illustrated by some events which take place at the moment and do not affect our company, but our colleagues. So having said that, what I really found striking ever and ever again is the really strong commitment which we have at the level of state governments in the United States for supporting industry. The governor of South Carolina attends each and every Frankfurt Motor Show in order to meet people from this sector. And very clearly this hasn't been an automotive state in the early 90s. When we moved there, we were the first. Now Volvo will follow, Daimler will go to South Carolina. They have now quite many automotive suppliers who have been going into that place. And this has something to do with really listening to business needs, yeah, and then doing what is required. Like, for example, practical things like deepening Charleston Harbor, for example, yeah, which is very important to get also the big ships in so that our products, which go to every place in the world, namely to China, for example, out into the markets. Establishing an inland port in order to facilitate export procedures and logistics. So it's really about mindset and about a very close hands-on attitude that we have been meeting in the US frequently and more so than in some other places.
Yeah.
So we are not so demanding like BMW in this, but we are always happy if they invest more because then they buy more from us. And so in this way, let's say to keep to answer your question, it is what we are demanding from the US. Let's say the government has to keep like it is now for us, that we are free, like today, to do the best, that we get the support like in the past. So in this case, if the US government and the state, the governors and so on, if they keep like they are going on in this way, like they have also supported us in the past, we will be more than happy. I think they will see the demand in the way of software, that they will invest a little bit more in the universities that we get some more students out of this. But I think the behavior and also the behavior of the people don't have to change, because what I found out each time when I'm in the US, it's still the same behavior. They're free, they do, in inverted commas, what they want, and so they're creative, and I hope that they will, also my colleagues will keep this, because this is all what I expect and I want.
Okay. Ed, your last wish, including your wish for the Hanover Fair 2016?
I don't know if I should be wishing myself that much work, but yes, it's important that everybody knows, and maybe most of you do already, but in 2016, the United States will be the partner land after over 25 years of not having a significant presence at that show. And we'll have all sorts of opportunities for companies interested, both from the investment perspective. We'll have a center with perhaps as many as 50 regions in the United States represented, but also many other technology pavilions, including one in the research and development sector appropriate to today's program. Wishes, I've got two if I could allow myself one. Quickly, TTIP, don't be afraid of TTIP. Germany is mature enough, competitive enough. TTIP will only help to level the playing field and to remove distortions of the market, and let the most competitive companies prevail. We're not afraid to compete with Germany, and Germany shouldn't be afraid to compete with the United States. And if anybody thinks that the U.S. takes safety and security loosely, talk to a litigation attorney or look at the newspapers recently. We're quite serious about that. The other thing is that I hope the companies that are looking at the United States look at this seriously as a long-term win-win proposition. The goal is not to extract as many tax concessions or incentives to get something from the public sector that would otherwise not be available. And you're entering into a marriage with a market, a very aggressive, competitive market, and you need partners. With the Kansas Cities of the United States, with the Charlottes of the United States, with the U.S. federal government, you're entering into a long-term partnership, and it's truly a win-win situation if you look at it from that perspective. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen, and thank you for your attention.